Started. Hey everybody, how's it going? We're going to do our crepe class. So we're going to make our crepes. Today we're going to make some savoury crepes, but next week is Mother's Day, so we'll do that on a Sunday. And we'll save some of these crepes, we'll freeze and we'll make some extra today, and we'll save some of these crepes so that way we're already prepared for next week's Mother's Day breakfast in bed. So we'll have a birch and muesli, which we'll make the night before, which I'll do a live the night before. We'll do some fruit crepes, and then we'll do the classic hipster avocado on toast with some eggs and stuff. But today we're going to work on our French crepes. Alright, so what we're going to do is begin to make our batter. So if you have your ingredients there, I think it was a cup of water, it was some milk, it was 2 cups of flour, and 4 eggs and some salt. So we got some milk. I mean, you can use cream, but it's probably not as good, I don't think. So what we have is some flour. I like to start off with doing milk. So I got a cup of milk. We're going to do a thing of water. Now with this, with crepes, with the recipe, it doesn't require too much. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. It doesn't need to be particular. In the restaurants, I like to add a bit of melted butter into it. It seems to add a bit more flavour to it. If you want it creamier, you can always add do 2 cups of milk instead of water. It depends on what you want. If you are allergic and don't like milk, or you're lactose intolerant, you can use other milks. You've got almond milks, you've got coconut milk, all sorts of weird kind of milks, but be aware that it will affect the flavour quite a bit. So we got these. We got 2 cups of flour. 1. This is a pretty big batch, but we're going to make extra, like I said, for next week. So yeah, if you was to make a bunch of crepes or something, you can make a whole heap of these, and I'll show you, we'll glad wrap them, and they can sit in the freezer for quite a while. One of the things that I like to set up before we get going, the main part is what you're using as your pans. Well, I've got this really old pan that I've had for years, and it's well, it's pretty old, so I'm not sure how well it's going to work, but these Teflon pans are really important. So what I do is I turn one up on full pelt on the highest setting, and then I have the other one on about halfway. You'll see why we need to do that in a minute. So we're going to put both of those pans in there, and then we'll whisk this. I have seen some recipes where they... Oh, I forgot to put the eggs in. I've seen some recipes where they just put it in a blender. You can do that. 4 eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a pinch of salt. And then we just whisk it through. So you don't need to worry too much about how you make this batter, in a sense that you can put it in a blender, you can whisk it really hard. Remember, when you work your flour, the more you work your flour, the more glutinous it's going to be. So you end up like a bread. When you work the gluten in it a lot, it becomes quite elastic. But if you don't work your flour that much, it becomes quite short. So it becomes kind of like short crust little biscuits, shortcut pastry, or even like a scone. If you overwork scone, it turns into this kind of like a weird, it becomes golf balls. But if you mix it, it'll be too flaky. So it's a bit of a trick to it. So we got our batter, and you want to always get as much as you can. You want to try and get as much of those lumps out as you can. I like to add a bit of oil or something. Oops. Obviously, I still haven't found my whisk. I don't know where it is. I think it's probably out in the garden or something for all I know. But I mean, obviously you can add the butter with it. There's different recipes. I've noticed there's different recipes for crepes. You can use, if you're gluten-free, there's, I think you can make a blend of coconut flour and corn flour or rice flour. If you're going paleo or ketogenic, you probably need to use more like seeded flours and so forth. I haven't really tried much of them. I'm just sticking to the traditional way of doing it, of just flour, milk and eggs. So we'll try this out. So don't be too worried about the restrictions of the ingredients that you put in here. So in other words, if you feel like the batter is a bit soft or it's too thick, add more milk to it or more water to it. If it's too runny, add some more flour to it and mix it through. It doesn't really matter. Even this, I'm kind of thinking it might seem a bit too thick. You kind of want it kind of like a soft custard. So I think I might just test it. Actually, add a bit of water to it to just. All right. Do you want to come around? We'll come over here. Oh, my frying pan is quite hot. Now, in the recipes, you can use butter, but with this pan, I have a spray oil. I'll get some butter. We'll try it with both ways. I mean, one obviously would taste better than the other, but I find the spray oil works more efficiently for it. So we'll do this. Your first go is always going to be messed up. Well, 99% of the time, it never works out. So we'll put it on our hot part of the stove and we whiz it around like that, just as a tester. We're just going to see how this goes. If it's too thick, you can just push it around. Sorry?
Can I get something to eat?
Yeah, not yet. We're going to make some little flat pancakes. Say hello, everybody. No, you're not getting anything to eat now. I'll make something. You can have some grapes. Well, that's all we got. You can't have anything else. You're obviously not that hungry.
I am.
Alright, we can get some later. Alright, so. Just upset a camera woman. So we check this out, we'll flip it, and there it is. Maybe we could have cooked that a little bit longer. I think that could be a little bit thinner, but it's a start. So the reason why I have a hot part, and a not so hot part is that way that we can do it this way. So we have this, oh, what's going on? Okay, so we have this hotter part, which is where we start off. And then we have the not so hot, so it's kind of in between to finish off the cooking process. When I used to work in one of the French restaurants, we used to have to make literally hundreds of these. So you would have this big massive hot plate at different temps, and you have about 10 of these pans that you would just rotate. I still think that's a bit thick, so you can add a bit more water. Let's test this one out. We pour it in. So this is the one with the butter versus the oil. In the restaurants we tend to use the spray oil. It just seems to hold better. But having the additional butter makes it taste really good too. Let's have a test of this. Let's see how that goes. So that's the first one. It's a bit thicker than it should be, and we haven't rested the batter, which is what we're going to do in a minute. I'm just doing these as a test, but the first batch will always be a bit, not so great. Same thing with this one. You see that it's still quite thick. I like these to be quite paper thin. And because we've whisked this batter up, it hasn't had a time to rest, so what we want to do is let the batter rest for a little bit before we actually cooking it, because it makes it seem quite tough and rubbery. One's gone there, and we'll do it. So while we're waiting on this batter on resting, what I was going to do is come over here and we'll prep up our filling. So I got some chicken here, which I'll put on a different chopping board. So I was going to do some chicken. I think I said on the thing chicken, cream, asparagus, which is all very traditional style. I mean, you can do anything. There's minced beef. You can put in a pulled pork. You can do. The options are endless. What you can do. But I thought I'll try and keep it fairly traditional, and we'll do a chicken and a creamy sauce. I mean, what's great about this recipe is that from this, you can use this chicken as just a normal dish. You can serve it with some pasta, or you can serve it with rice, or you can serve it with some vegetables. It doesn't really matter. So, go here. So we got the chicken here, we've got the asparagus, which we'll cut them off, we'll save them for later. And we're going to fry these asparagus off as well. So we'll make a nice sauce with them. So if you come over here, oh, we don't have enough heat on this yet. So we're going to just fry off these asparagus. So that's the other crepe that we've done. See how it's really thick, rubbery, because it hasn't really had time to really settle and batch. I didn't, and I probably made the batter a bit too thick. It's not very good. I wouldn't like to use that one. I would probably use it for something else. I'm not sure.
Give that one to the hungry kid.
Give it to the hungry children. Kids will probably like that one. So, meantime, we need to set up our asparagus. So if you're going to make this, do you have any suggestions on what you think would go really well with it? I think prawns is awesome with it. Like if you make a seafood mornay, like with prawns, squid, octopus, and you make this kind of creamy sauce, it would be amazing. So I'm frying off these asparagus with a bit of butter and some seasoning with asparagus as well as with carrots. There's a chemical in these things that seems to, the oil seems to bring out more flavours in the asparagus, and same as carrots. When you fry carrots or you roast them, they seem to have more flavour and more texture and more balance to it versus just boiling and blanching. When you blanch asparagus, I think it loses a lot of its flavour and a lot of its niceness. I can't think of a word for it, but it's just so much nicer to cook asparagus on a grill or to boil them. It's just the chemical enzymes in it. It just works better. What's wrong, honey? Are you hungry as well?
So we can put this on the thing where I can fly. The charger's out here and I can't do it.
Well, go and get the charger and charge it. Oh, it's not hard, is it? Alright, so the asparagus is ready. I'm going to put it on that other. Oh, okay. I'm making something here. Oh, sorry. Scratched it up. Okay, so we're going to throw in our chicken. So you notice I'm cooking on everything on this big kind of iron pan. I think it's an aluminium pan. I love this thing because you can cook on, it's like a hot plate. You can throw this whole thing on into the oven. It's so versatile. It works so well. I think it cost me like $3 at the cheap shop, at the op shop. It's so good. So good. Okay. I probably could have got a bit more heat on this. So we're just going to fry off these chickens. This one's even hotter. This one's here. I don't want to get too much colour in this because I'm going to put it with a white sauce, so that would affect it. We're going to get some fresh garlic. If you want to use, you can use crushed garlic as well. But I've got time to do like a fresh one. Take the skin off it. Mash it. Crush it. Garlic in there, we're getting a little bit of colour, which is not bad. You want just slight bit of brown, I think. I mean, you can use this. It's quite versatile. You can use it for anything. You don't need to have it for crepes. You can, like I said, you can even turn it into a pasta sauce. Like so. And get some cream. Oh, actually you can use milk as well. We're just going to thicken it anyway. Did I say cream or milk? I said cream.
Claire said it smells delicious.
Who?
Claire.
It does smell delicious. Alright, and then we got some cream. Same again, if you're lactose intolerant or you don't want to have certain things, you can use some sort of cream substitute, but must remember when you do that it's going to really affect the flavour, so you need to test different things. What do you want now, Chloe? Huh? Well, we're cooking here and you'll have something to eat in a minute. Alright, so now what we're going to do is going to reduce this down a bit. Maybe this heat will be a bit better here. And we're just letting the flavours cook in there. Let's get it a bit closer. Let's have a look. Oh yeah. So we got a bit of creaminess. and we're just warming this through so it's cooked right through. And then in the meantime, what we need to do is find a way of thickening this this sauce, because once we made the flavors, it will be quite runny, and that's okay if you don't mind that, but it's better if it's a bit thicker. So there's 3 different ways that we can thicken this. Well, there's several different ways, but there's 3 main ways that we can do to thicken this this sauce once it's ready. And the first way is the traditional way, which is making a roux. A roux, R-O-U-X. A roux is an equal parts of flour and butter, and you cook that flour and butter out in a pan, and it makes this kind of a paste. I mean, you can make different types of roux. You can make a blonde roux, which you're not cooking that much heat to it, and it makes this paste, and then we can put it in with this cream, and it will be a thickener. So what happens is the butter and the flour has bounded together, and once it hits the water, the butter kind of releases the flour granules out into it evenly, and it then thickens the sauce. Because if you just threw flour straight in here, it will clump up straight away, and you get these kind of gluggy lumps, which isn't that pleasant. So a roux is really good. It's very classical. It's very traditional on how you want to do things and stuff like that. So, but what we're going to do is we're not going to do that. We're going to cheat a bit, and some people might not like it, but I think it works really well because it's also gluten-free. It's corn flour, so we get a bit of corn flour. We throw it in. I think it's like 2 tablespoons for that, and then if you just threw corn flour dry straight in there, it's just going to clump straight up, and it's going to go all in little lumps, and you won't get it out, and it'll be quite horrible. So what you need to do is put it with make a paste with it with a bit of water. So it's probably equal amounts of corn flour to water. Make sure you mix that right in. No lumps in there. If you have any lumps, it'll show up in your sauce, and you don't want that. And you won't get it out unless you go blend it, and it's really, really annoying thing to do. So let's see, I think our chicken's already close. Have a bit of a taste, which is perfect. And then I'll make a little well in the middle there for the sauce, and then we slowly start mixing it through. And you'll see how it's starting to thicken already. And then you have this thicken. Now from here, you can add cheese at the end here, different types of cheddar or mozzarella. It would all be really nice, and you kind of have this cheesy chicken Alfredo kind of thing. You can add this with pastas, you can make it with rice, you can do, you can add your asparagus, you can pretty much do anything with it. It's really, really moorish and delicious. So that's done. We'll put that aside, and we'll go back to our crepe making. So if you're trying to make this, who's that? Hello? Oh, we got some visitors. I think we've got some Jehovah's Witnesses or something. Alright, so our chicken's already made. You can see it. There we go. And then we got our asparagus. And now we're going to go back into our crepes. So these crepes are pretty much rested. In the kitchens we tend to make the crepe mix the night before, which is really good. and it really gives it a chance to settle. But let's see. All right. So put in mix, and then we swirl it around. Still has a few little lumps in. There we go. And then we put that, and that can go into this smaller part. And then we'll try with the second one. So the trick about this is all about the heat transfer. It's having control over your heat and having an understanding. It's quite okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, so don't freak out when things aren't falling right. You get to just experiment with it. If it's too thick, then you can just add more liquid to it. If it's too thin, then just add more flour to it. It's no big deal. So what I've done here, because I've used a spray, is I add a bit of butter on the side, and what it does is it just adds a bit of flavour to it. Just kind of simmers away. It just kind of adds a bit of flavour to it. And then let's try this. That's a bit better. I think they're still a little bit thick for my liking. Like that under there. Melt through. The other thing you can do about these is you make 20 or 30 of them and you make a big stack, and in between you can add some sort of cream or Nutella, whatever tickles your fancy. But you want to get this nice little caramelization, which the butter really helps with, and then put it on here like this. Let's do it one more time. We've got a pumpkin soup cooking now over here. Okay, we'll do it one more time, and then we'll roll up our savoury crepes with our chicken. Okay, same thing. I found that the lower we get to the bottom of this, it tends to thicken up at the end. So you tend to have to add a little bit more liquid to adjust. So always just check your batter. Always try and seek to adjust it. Yeah, that's that one. You can get these little wooden tools that pushes the crepe around to make it nice and even and super thin. I did have one of those, and it cost me heaps of money, but I think my kids have been playing with it and it's gone. If you do put too much batter in it, you can just pour it out like this, and then I cut it off, and then you get that little batter there. I'm pushing some of these lumps out. Here's the other one. Put some batter on the bottom of it. This pan has turned out working quite well. I haven't used it for years. And there's that. There's that one. Well, I'll probably flip that a bit too early. There's those. So if we come back over here, we'll finish off these and put these together. I mean, you can put grated cheese. Like I said, it's up to you and your sense of your own creation. You can do whatever you want with it. So I thought, staying with the theme, I got some really nice Tasmanian and triple cream brie because I like creamy fatness. It's just what I like. And then we're going to throw some of this in there. You can use any kind of favourite cheese. Actually, blue cheese would be pretty awesome with this as well. I'm going to get the last crepe. Like so. Alright, so we got our crepes. We got a spoon. We can get out a piece of chicken. It's almost, honey. You just need to wait a little bit longer. We're going to throw some asparagus. Can you turn that off, please, honey? We put out some cheese in there. Can you see that? So we got these. And then, oh, my camera lady has left us for a bit. So I can't, oh yeah, there we go. And then we just roll it. So we can like get this together, roll these. If your crepe is a bit too thin, of course you can just do a double wrap. Or if you like to do it that way, it's all pretty easy. I like to put it out like that so it kind of exposes the chicken and what's in there. Let's do a second one. Piece of chicken. Asparagus, some cheese, and some cheese for me. Oh yeah, that's so good. This is incredible. So remember, next week we're going to make a whole bunch more of these, and we'll do some sweet ones, I should say. So this is your asparagus, and then we can put some of this sauce all over it. If I had, we can probably grab some garnish over the top, some cheese there, and a couple of asparaguses there, and voila, there you go. Asparagus crepe with chicken and cream, and hope you like it. If you got any questions, comment on there. Yeah, love to hear from you. Alright guys, thanks for joining us today, and talk to you later.